This artwork was originally created for an A4 folder in collaboration with Love Donation, an organization supporting cats at risk of euthanasia and hunger. For the project, I created the story of Ten, a lonely cat who eventually finds friendship and belonging. The A4 version was designed in a simple and friendly style. Later, I wanted to expand it into a larger, more immersive lotus forest scene. I love the greens of summer. Walking through a forest filled with sunlight filtering through the leaves always makes me feel alive again. Growing up in Japan, I was surrounded by lotus leaves, whose large green forms gave me a sense of calmness, peace, and a touch of mystery. That is why I chose them as the main motif for this painting. After completing the A4 version, I expanded the artwork into a 300mm x 900mm vertical piece. Inspired by traditional Japanese hanging scrolls or kakujiku, the vertical format guides the viewer's eye through the scene and suggests a world beyond the frame. After completing the expanded draft, I began refining the painting from the top. I used Max Pack watercolor smudge brushes to soften edges, then added texture and refined shapes using charcoal and watercolor brushes. For painting, I mainly use Multiply, Normal, and Add blending modes in Procreate. I use Multiply for shadows, Add mode for brighter and more vibrant effects, and Normal mode when I want softer light with less contrast. By adjusting opacity and blending modes, I can control both the brightness and the level of abstraction in different areas. One thing I enjoy about this process is the freedom to be playful. I love slightly abstract shapes because they leave room for imagination and create a sense of rhythm throughout the painting. When I paint too realistically, I sometimes feel restricted, but subtle abstraction allows me to explore unique shapes while keeping the artwork unified and exciting to work on. During this stage, I also focused on layering effects inspired by watercolor. Many of the leaves were painted with translucent, overlapping layers to create depth, enrich the image, and give the painting a more spacious and breathable feeling. After refining the overall painting, I moved on to Haku the white cat. My goal was to add more detail while making her slightly more realistic and visually pleasing. For me, pleasing shapes are rhythmic and aesthetically balanced. I am naturally drawn to triangular shapes and often find them visually appealing. Because of this, I frequently think about triangular structures when designing characters, whether in the face, body, or overall silhouette. The number 3 has always felt unified and harmonious to me, so it often influences my approach to design and composition. For Haku, I first refined the overall drawing and then began adding fur details throughout her body. The individual hairs may be difficult to notice at normal viewing size, but they create a significant difference when viewed up close. Next, I worked on Ten the black cat. I followed a similar process, first refining the drawing and body shape, then adding fur details and refining the eyes. Eyes are one of the most important elements of character painting because they bring life and personality to a character. For that reason, I usually leave the finer eye details until the end. The color, shape, and size of the eyes all play an important role in defining a character's personality and emotional presence. Afterward, I adjusted the leaves surrounding Haku. Since Haku is white, I wanted to make the surrounding areas darker so that she would stand out more clearly. Then I moved into the background around Ten. Because Ten's fur is very dark, I added lighter areas nearby to create balance and help guide the viewer's attention. Then I paused. For half a year. Half a year later, I returned to this painting because it was almost time to share it. As soon as I looked at it again, I felt that something was not quite right. The first thing that stood out to me was Haku's shape. So I began by refining her once again. Just as before, I started by sketching her body shape. However, I soon realized that not only the shape but also her position and size needed adjustment. I decided to remove the original version. I copied and pasted Haku onto a separate layer, blurred the area underneath, and painted over it using charcoal brushes to rebuild the background. Then I used the duplicated version of Haku as the starting point for the revision. I first adjusted her shape using white paint, then added texture, color, and shading. After that, I refined the fur details before adjusting the lighting and position. Finally, I refined the environment around her. Again, I used multiply, add, and normal blending modes to create contrast, lighting effects, and watercolor-like transparency. For the leaves, I used Max Pack watercolor brushes, while finer details were painted with a dry ink brush. Then I did the same thing for 10. Later, I adjusted the contrast and balance around both Haku and 10 because the painting felt visually heavy. I felt that adding more light would help unify the composition. I also wanted to maintain the rhythm throughout the scene. Using the rounded shapes of the lotus leaves, I experimented with their placement, brightness, and transparent overlapping effects to create a balanced flow, gentle depth, and a peaceful atmosphere within the lotus forest. And with that, the painting was complete. The lotus forest, a place where 10 meets Haku, his first friend. Surrounded by fresh green leaves and immersed in the life of the forest, 10 discovers companionship and a new sense of belonging.